Seder starts off with Eila Mishpatim, Rashiv Zatzal, asks the Kasha, why is the first mitzvah after Matan Torah, which is Parshas Yisroi, is Eved Ivri. And Eved Ivri, we all know, we're talking about Eved Ivri of Mocha Bezdin, which was stealing. So the first mitzvah we're talking about is stealing. And he answers that because they have to understand that someone who steals is someone who says the Bein Shalom, they're denying certain keiches of the Bein Shalom. What do they mean? The Bein Shalom didn't give it to me, so I'm going to take it. That means you can take something what the Bein Shalom doesn't want to give you, and that can't be. Okay, it's not only the Rashivim from this Remez, really, because that's really only a Remez, it's actually in the term of Ferish. In Parshas Vayikra, when it talks about the Hashomes, so it says first about what the Asher Mi'ila. So this is the Lashon. Nefesh kisimo ma'al v'chota b'shgoga mikotche Hashem. That was, he was mauled by touching something from Hegdish he wasn't allowed to. Behaviors Hashem, again, anything like that. Okay, that sounds, that's what real, what do you call Me'il is. And Afal Pikain doesn't sound like a big thing. I mean, Avadi didn't Avera, but I'm just saying it's nothing. But when it comes to the Hashem and Gezel, it says, Nefesh kisachto, he didn't just make a me'ila. He made a me'ila in Hashem. In other words, he said God can't do something. He weakened God's keach. And that's why, and he said, and that's what, by stealing, by this, by that, the denying, he falls for money. These are the things that are. So to take it, so stealing has that thing, and we have it again in Parshas Nosai, when it talks about the Gezel Ager. It says, what's the Lashon? Yasov cholat chotes ha'odam limo ma'u b'Hashem v'oshma nefesh ahi. That's by Gezel Ager, and it goes into again ma'u b'Hashem. So that's how terrible the Indian is. The Gezel, in a way, is the biggest kfirah that a person can have if he's a gazel, steals. Because he's saying that God, I'm going to get what God doesn't want to give. Okay. How do we get to talk about Eila Mishpatim? And we have a funny thing. We said, we talked about Matan Torah, Yisrael's partner is Matan Torah, and we finish off Matan Torah after Mishpatim. The last Parsha, in Parshas Mishpatim, is talking about the end of Matan Torah, like what happened. This is what I think happened. In the first day that he told Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the third day of what he call it, Yishbi Amlechas Kahanim Goy Kodesh, Eila Advarim Shedaber Bnei Yisrael Zoklah Shelo Yosef Lo Poches, 7 words, and that's it. That you thought that you should be that you do. And what does that mean, Mamlechas Kahanim Goy Kodesh? So Mamlechas Kahanim is that the Pshat is what it says in the Rambam, that is that Lo Shevet Levi Bilvad Elokol, whatever it is there, and like Koyanim Halvim, like that's the Koyanim Halavim, okay? That they get, that what do the Kohanim do differently than anybody else? It says in Parshas Kerach, the Kohanim live from Shulchan Gevoya. What does it mean? Kol asher titen li l'chol yiyu. Whatever you give to Hashem belongs to the Kohanim. So they're always eating those. So therefore, a person who is a Kohen, what will happen to him is, meaning he says, God, whatever you need, I'm there. Don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. It means being a second grade Rebbe. I'll be a second grade Rebbe. It means being the guy in charge of cleanliness. I'll do that. It means being the guy that's the mashgiach, the mammon collector. Whatever you need, I'm going to be there, Rebbeinu Shalom, to do it. That guy will never suffer from not having food. That guy will always have parnasa. A Levi, though, is not, it says, this lady is chelef avodaschem, it says over there. I give you a maisa. What's the difference between the maisa and the kohen? Kohen is, everything is kodesh. Yisrael's not allowed to eat it. On the other hand, maisa is chum. It's the thing that, it's chelef avodaschem, it's a salary. That's all it is. In other words, you want to work for me? Wonderful. I'll give you, I need workers, and I'll pay. Well, I'll pay as good as other places or not. That's a different parashas. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But l'maaseh, it's a salary. But I'd rather work for God, meaning in the yeshiva, in his rabbonis, in kashrus, in a place working for God, because the people involved are a lot nicer people. There's some purpose to it. And therefore, but it's only a salary, meaning I work for God on my terms. If you got a job that I'm interested in, then you can call me. If you don't have a job I'm interested in, then don't bother calling me. So in other words, less than 10th grade, don't even think about it. If you don't have, I'm the CEO, forget about it. I mean, whatever it is, that means whatever. I'm willing to be the guy as long as it's under my terms. That's it good. But it's not a kohen. Now, there is the new Rambams. If you'll check the old Rambams, I guess before the Frankel Rambam, I don't know if any other Rambams are printed now, except the Frankel Rambam. You'll see all the old ones, when they put down the words, they write, Koyanim Halvim, without a vav. And that's 23 times, I think, in the Torah. It refers to the Kohanim as HaKoyanim Halavim. Now, what they call the Kedusha of Levi is because of the Kohen. That's the Ikah that we have to know. On the other hand, they put in HaKoyanim V'Halavim, so then my shtik Torah I just told you goes off. So there, if I go after the old Rambams. But I'm just saying that now you see a difference in a little bit of a gilsa. It's the first time I think they printed it, they didn't give a mocker. Now they gave a mocker, I found, in the newest ones. So there's a mocker where they found it in certain Rambams to put down V. But it's not always an eitzah to just put down what you find in certain Rambam. It makes sense, but not if you try to ask the kashas and we walk through. So that's the difference in it. So the way I explained it is the way the old Rambams took it. Okay, different the Kohen and Levi. Okay, so what I think the Rebbeinu, so what did he do? The Rebbeinu did, and what? Oh, it said what's a goy kodesh? What when we refer to someone is holy? What do we mean? By the goyim, they also use the lashon holy. He's holy. What does that mean? So they usually use it for Polish, like a monk and someone like that. Someone's Polish minoilam, so that he's holy. We are Prushim minoilam. That's what the Rambam talks about us, and why we're called a goy kodesh. For that, because we're Polish minoilam. We do not eat all the foods in the world. We do not have relationships with all different women in what he called family million relationship with one, only part-time, and even then not so much as compared to what they can do. So therefore, we are Polish. We are Kedusha, and that's what we say by the bracha, by the chasane. Mekari Shami Yisrael, Ayidei Chuppah v'Kedushin. In other words, we become holy through the word of Chuppah and Kedushin. Okay, that's the only thing that's mataras a woman. And this is the thing. Okay, so those are two things. So the Rebbeinu wanted to see, what his shiur is. They said, Kol HaShediva Hashem Naseh, whatever he says, and he said it Kol Echad, everybody with their own interpretations that God was willing to accept. That's a nemesis Kabbalah Satera, your interpretation, but it has to be emes, at least as far as you consider it emes. You have worked on it and developed it and everything else, and it's emes. So it's emes, not just what you make up. That's not what makes the Torah. And on that, in the Seforim, I think it says 36 heterim, 36 isurim, all on the same thing. 36 tameim, 36 taherim. These are svaras and taimim and things like that. So you have a lot of things where people can be say the opposite of another person that was given Har Sinai. And that's Sharel Ve'el Devilikim Chaim, the Baraisa says. And therefore, without any crazy kashas, that's simply what it is. If a person believes what he's saying and he does work on these inyonim, so that's exactly how it's going to be. It's going to be emes. So that's not what they're talking. So that what they accept. So even though we have 600,000 different interpretations, but they're all within these drachim, a little of this, a little of that, and they'll always have something. So then it's fine. Nothing there. But the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I want you to put some Mishpatim in front of them, which on the next day, on the fourth day, and that's what will fix with the end of the Seder. He gives them all of these halachas, which are what? Relationships between one and a friend, benodem chavere, the gabi mominus, and stuff like that, where, in other words, where you harm somebody or you didn't take care of your property, and therefore that harmed, and as whatever the Abbas and Zikim are, it's not negay, but you're responsible for everything that you own and whatever, not to make hazard on somebody else. And you can't steal. That's the thing there. So what was the purpose of telling them that? And on that they answered, Kol advorim asher diba Hashem naseh. We'll do whatever he said. All of Mishpatim will do. Right? But they put in a word. They didn't say Kol asher diba Hashem naseh. Whatever God says, we'll do. Kol hadvorim asher diba Hashem. Whatever, all these words that God said, we will do. Meaning, we want to check on them first. We want to see if we can agree with them. It happens to be we agree with it. But the Maaseh, we want the rest of the Torah has to go through us. That's not a Kabbalah Sater anymore. That's already Kabbalah from yourself. What I understand, I do. What I don't understand, I don't do. That is Kfirah. And that is not a Kabbalah Sater. That's not going in the ways of Hashem. Now the thing is, because you're only going in your own opinion, not doing it what God wants. You're doing it because you want it. That's not the Kabbalah Sater. When they had to bring korbanos and then they had to do kapore on the whole arm, which we'll see later. So then they had to call it Shadira Hashem Naseh v'Nishma. Then they added that words Nishma, that the thing they said. Rashiva asked again. Normally it's learned, I will do, and then I will listen to the reasoning. So, of course, if that means that, but I want to know what the reason is afterwards, but that has nothing to do with my doing. So he says that Kol Shadiba Hashem Nas is a big matrega. I'm not even interested in hearing a reason for it. I'm just, if you said it, I'm doing it. No kasha. So why was it so mild? He said it means what your teachers told you. And what they think, and what your teachers sometimes tell you is left is right and right is left. Doesn't mean they're wrong, and they're telling you right is left and left is right, and that's why you have to listen to them. Anyway, they're telling you the truth. What you think is right is really left, and what you think is left is really right. And that's what they're telling you. And that we're willing to follow. We have no negias anymore. We don't have to understand. We don't want to understand. We just want to follow whatever our teachers tell us it means and so on. And of course, we will do that. And it's a mitzvah leaving that Torah for you to become that teacher too. Okay. So that's evidently. Okay. I was asked by someone last night, that what happened if the Eved, it says here, if the Eved would say, Haftis Hadoni Esishti Vesbonai, I don't want to go out free. So what do? He make Matzeya, and he has to work until Yevel. What happens if he says, I don't want to go free. I'm not going into the thing. I'm safe here. I'm taken care of. I don't need to go out in the world and conquer everything. I want to stay. So, but I don't want to be an Eved anymore. Okay, you can stay. You want to be employed? Fine, I'll hire you. I don't have to pay you more than food, whatever you want. I mean, I'll give you what I gave you before. You're willing to do that, so fine. That's what I'll pay you. But now I can give you work to do. Until then, when you were din of an Eved, so we lowered your status. We let you marry a shikse. Or not chasas, a shikse. We let you marry what do you call shivchuch kananis. That's so in other words that even though she's mekayim all the mitzvahs keisha, abafal became kedushas yisrael she doesn't have, and znus and these things is mutter to her. So therefore, normally you're not as then of layisi kadesh or kadesha. The thing there in this case you're permitted to do it because of. What do you call the Yisrael's Kadesha? Yes, so this year, because you're an Eved, you lower the standard, what do you call it? But now I don't want to keep a low standard. I want to up my standard. I want to be an employee man, not anything. So an employee can work. There's no issue of making him look like an Eved, because you're not an Eved, you're getting paid for it. And whatever, you can quit at any time, you can walk out on me. Whatever it is there, but you're also in the Shifchi Kananis. So you can't say, or have to see Shiras Bonai, that you can't say because you're not going to be with them anymore. So that you must go out and be able, but you don't have to go away from working for the guy. That you can stay there. And what do you go? And the guy, on the other hand, can't hit you either. They have a small parsha right after the din of Yud. Maki Ishvas Meis Yumos. If you kill somebody, you get the death penalty. Vashaloi Tzoda v'lekim liyodei v'samtecha mokem asher yonisham. And if you did not on purpose, meaning that you were hoirig b'shoigeg, so then I give you a place to go to. And Rashi brings out of Indian that this is to tell you that if a guy was chayiv golus meets somebody and he didn't go to golus, and somebody's chayiv misa but nobody caught him, there was no edim or something, what will happen is that the guy who has to go to golus will now kill this person that's chayiv misa, and he'll kill him in a way that he'll have to go to Golus for. Okay, that's what Rashi says. Hashem inu liyodei. That's the point. Now, what bothered me is, what about the first time? What about the first time? He killed the guy the first time. Why doesn't he have to go to Golus for that? Why are you up to the second time? So I want to kind of like this. He's not really talking about guy who actually killed, and this is the din take. The Farna din says that Moshe gave over the Torah. He made the cities, the three cities, Neva Yada and Mizrach Shemesh. So Rashi, they go through. The Gemara says his rachto shemesh al rotzchim. So the question is, if it's a compliment or an admonishment. Now, what did you do? The last mitzvah you're going to do before you die, you made Gimel Orim for what? To save a Rotzeach. Why is that so important? Why did you do that? Why do you want to save Rotzum for? That's it, because of the admonishment. If you hold the Yashikeach, meaning because everybody truly is a Rotzeach. What do you mean, Rotzeach? We didn't say you're an accident here. We didn't say it was I didn't mean it. So the definition of murder by us is not murder one, like by the goyim is. I have to have premeditation to kill this guy and to kill that. No. I have premeditation to be careless. In other words, I'm going to chop wood in Bayar in the forest. The forest is a public place. Everybody can walk into it. I didn't check if my axe has the handle on good or not. And it swings off and flies off and it kills somebody. I'm responsible, but I didn't check on that. That is the problem that we're talking about. So therefore, that is a Retzeach. So in reality, being careless, you're already Retzeach. You didn't kill anybody, but you're Retzeach. Imagine going down, I'd say Ocean Parkway, because the guy stops there, and a lot of people don't watch what they're doing. Imagine even yourself if it ever happened. You're talking, even learning to the guy next to you, like that, and you're driving, and all of a sudden you see from the corner of your eye someone tried to cross in front of your car, and you say, whew, that was close, right? So for the next 5 minutes, you go like this. You don't bother, look, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not then. You don't kill anybody. For 5 minutes, you're back to talking like this, right? Why? Because I'm careless. The reason I didn't kill anybody was because nobody was Chayiv Misa there at that time. That's why I didn't kill. But if I would be Chayiv Misa, I would have killed him. Because I'm already Retzeach. That's it. So you don't kill anybody that's innocent. You kill somebody that's Chayiv Misa. But if you didn't go the first time because, like, okay, you didn't learn your lesson yet, but you did it a second time, that there's no excuse for. Now already you got to go to Gullus. Like this, once you learned your lesson, you killed somebody, maybe you learned your lesson. Okay, so you don't have to be so strict on you. But if you didn't learn your lesson, it happened a second time, then there's no excuse for you. Go to Gullus. Wanted to for Chiddush. It talks here about the union of Kikav Shor, which is Chotzi Nezik, Tam, and that's an animal kills for the first time. And the animal is worth $100, and the dead animal is worth $100. So we split both, and I pay the guy $50 the loss, and the whatever it is, you know, and we learn from here that instead of just why do you give such a case, which is a strange case, it's very rare that you happen such a case, is because he wants to teach you the Megufay also, that you mechuyev to pay. You know, is the mazik will never pay more than the amount that he damaged. That means he killed half a cow. In other words, he'll have to pay from his cow only if it's worth up to that amount. But let's say, for instance, he killed a $100 cow, killed a $200 cow. So he owes the $100, $300 cow. So l'chayra half nezik would be $150, but his cow is only worth $100, so he only has to pay the $100, and that's it. Okay. And the Torah could have said that also. So what did you tell me that? I'm still giving you a very strange case because it is. I want to say there's another case that you have really. From where do you figure the loss? In other words, how do you know what a dead cow is worth? So one simple way we would say is that it's worth as much as the market goes. You know, what's treifa meat sold for? And that's what it's worth for. That's what it's worth, right? We don't have treifa meat in our area. We don't have anyone to eat it. So we have animals that will eat it. So what do you pay for pet food? Whatever it is there. But there's a market for it. Okay? But the truth is, I'm not giving up my job to go become a butcher now. I'm not going to sell this meat. How am I going to sell this meat? So what I do is I call up a wholesaler, and I say to him, look, I just got a dead cow. You want to buy it for me? And he'll pay me half of what the going market price out in the street is, right? Or maybe even less than that. And that's the money that the dead cow is worth. So now, my hezek now is, look, X amount of dollars on the thing there. So how much do you have to pay for it in the thing there? So you pay you pay that little bit. I don't pay how much from what do you call it, from the market prices. I mean, I pay from this price. This price, my cow is very little value then, right? And the thing there. And that's all you get from me, as far as the cow goes. I don't have to pay you more than that. I don't have the mashlim to even, where my cow was originally worth money, or it's worth on the market price, where you can buy treifa meat. Let's say it's worth, if it's treifa meat, it's worth $100, right? But for me to sell it, I had to sell it for $25 because I don't know anywhere else how to do this. So therefore, the loss was a much greater one. So I should have to pay for my own pocket for this because no, I only pay migufay. That's it. So even in such a case, I only pay migufay. Whatever it's worth, that's it. Same thing applies to bar and all these different halachas there, but these things, keep that in mind. Yeah. We said a person's chayiv for different things, Abba Avis Nezikin. So the Abba Avis Nezikin is myself, that's all the mamazik. But then there is Shur HaMazik. Now Shur HaMazik doesn't only mean a shur. It's my dog, my cat, whatever pet I have. If it harms anything by you because I didn't watch it good, I'm responsible for the full price. Unless, as I say, it's an agoch, that doesn't, but this is by dogs and this, that doesn't apply. So the thing is, and when they eat in the street, in other words, they sometimes come and eat up your property, your cooks. You have, I don't know, let's say you were growing something and they went in, they ate it up and stuff like that. So I have that's sure. You also have a din of ish, which means where I utilize, not I'm utilizing them, but I put my things in a position that other strengths can damage with it. Like, for instance, a fire with a wind, right? The fire like this itself is, in my house, is no big deal. It's calm, it just burns wherever it is, and there's nothing afraid. But what happens if I put it in a place where there's a wind, and the wind catches it and makes it start a fire somewhere else because of my wind? That makes me higher for that wind. That's of course because I wasn't careful to make sure that I stood away from a place. And this doesn't only mean a wind. Let's say you want to go to sleep. This is a bit about my mazik, but the same thing. I went to sleep near a valuable vase, and I didn't move it away from my ability to hit it while I'm sleeping with my arm. So then if I break it, even though I did it in my sleep, I'm going to be chayiv for it, because I should have, that's part of my... If someone puts it down after I went to sleep, that's not my fault. But where I went to sleep and it was there, that is my fault. Okay. Now it says, Kisei Chayesh Motza Kaitzim Inecha Godish Hayakam Hayasodeh. So this teaches us an interesting thing, Rashi says. Kisei Chayesh Motza Kaitzim seems the past tense. The fire went out and it found thorns. The Nechal Godish and the good stuff was already burnt. Okay, what is it trying to tell us, this Lashon? So it's a difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. A tzaddik koydem hara nesav tzaddik. The Rebbeinu Shalom is going to, before he's going to bring the evil to the world, he's going to get rid of the tzaddik. And you'll think about certain people that died before the Second World War, mamish just before it, like a Prime and stuff like that, and there were others unfortunately died in the thing. I have no answers for that, for those questions. But you do find that some died before. Now, one of the cases in the Gemara brought down in Tanakh is Yeshio. Yeshio sent to Chulba to know about the Churban. And Chulba said, it's not going to happen in your time, it's going to happen at the time of your son. So you're not going to see the destruction. Okay, you know how he died? 300 arrows in him. That means he died 300 times because he was still alive after the arrows were all in him. He died on the way and they were carrying him away. 300 arrows in him, that means he died 300 times. You're going to tell me that's good? What the Torah is telling you is that itself, no matter how horrible that death is, it's preferable to seeing the actual destruction. So why do we have people, tzaddikim, living through the destruction? And they have. And you know stories, I'm not getting involved in who and what and when, but you'll think about it, and certain people were there before, certain people. The Ben Shalom kept people alive. On the other hand, he killed a lot. The Gemara in Shabbos that talks about the Nevuah, and the Nevuah was that the Rebbeinu Shalom said to the Malach HaMavos, he should put a tough chayim on the heads of tzaddikim. And the Midas Hadin came to the Rebbeinu Shalom and said, Rebbeinu Shalom, why are you keeping these people alive? They did nothing to save the Churban, even though they're tzaddikim, but they didn't do anything. They sat in their houses learning whatever they did. So the Rebbeinu Shalom said, but I can say this, even if they would have tried, nothing would have helped. So Midas Hadin said, you knew, but they didn't know, and they didn't try. So therefore, why he's saving? So Rebbeinu Shalom said, you're right, and he put the tough mothers on their head that they should die first. And I say, I don't think it's the Rebbeinu Shalom changing his mind from bad to good, from good to bad. Of course, we say Nevuah doesn't happen that way. And if it happened in this way, so then we have to worry about every time. How can you say so Pasha that it doesn't happen? It happened this time. No, this is good. It didn't change. What he was saying before is, why am I saving tzaddikim for? I'm saying tzaddikim for reading that we have to rebuild. To rebuild is a very schwer arbeit. Look at Noach. The main problem that he saw when he finished the thing, he's got 8 people in his people, all the animals, and all the seeds, because he's got to rebuild the world from zero to having trees and grass and everything else in the thing there, and all the animals. And that's what his job was. That's a terrible, hard job to live by, to rebuild. But you're going to have to see the Churban because I need you. And that the Midas Hadin Tainid, you don't need these guys. They didn't help you the first time, so why are they going to help you now? They didn't do anything to prevent it. So he says, you're right. So the tzaddik, though, that that the Bensham needs, he unfortunately will see the destruction, live through it, and Baruch Hashem and rebuild. The one he doesn't need, so two things are going to happen. That those be Kodim Hara Nesav Tzadik. That's one way, and it'll be a very simple way. But you're taking away people that, in a way, the prime of their lives. We didn't say how old these people are, but people that we're talking about, the Prime Mazel, and these were old men already. But these people were going to die now, but they're going to die before the destruction. And they're going to die young. They're going to die before their time, whatever it is there. But it's still preferable than seeing the destruction. Because to watch the destruction of Klal Yisrael is a very difficult thing to do. Yeah.
What about those who died in the middle?
I'm sorry?
What about those who died in the middle?
I didn't want to say about them. I can't, what am I going to tell you? The ones that got killed in the concentration camps. I have no real answer for that. I mean, say there were no really tzaddikim. They were maybe mekabel onshim for the door, whatever excuse they're going to do. But, those are hard to answer. I'm not getting involved. Chiyuv of a shoyel. The Lashon is, he's chayiv even ba'insim because kol hanoy shaloi. What does that mean? Does it mean it's like a punishment to him? He has kol hanoy, so therefore you're going to be responsible for everything. I think a simple explanation is this. When you borrow something from somebody, right, they shoyel. So that means, in a way, you're using up the ownership of the real owner. Let's take a car. I borrowed a car. Now, a car has a certain amount of maintenance, a certain amount of, and whatever it is, my deterioration of the car went, 8 cents a mile, 10 cents, I don't even know what the numbers are now. Don't drive, so I don't know my taxes. But whatever it is per mile, that thing, obviously, the car loses, right? That's even if you own the car, right? So we're saying that when you borrow something, you become the owner. Because if an owner would have it at that time and an illness would happen to it, lightning would strike it, right? The owner lost his item. There's nothing he can do about it. He lost it. There's no one he can complain to. He can't say, you got to pay me. Not unless it was insured, maybe, but that's about it, right? And for that, he was paying premiums. So, say we don't even know if he paid up more than the thing was worth in the first place. Okay, in time. So therefore, what you become is the owner for that period of time. And therefore, just like an owner, because that's what you are at that moment, because you're the owner. You're taking away the mamish, whatever the usage is possible that the owner to have at that time, you're taking it. And therefore, now taking it, now you're the owner. You're the owner, so when this happens in your time, then God is obviously out to get you, not anybody else. And therefore, you have to pay for it. It's so difficult to truly be a judge, or even what you call it, that's really a judge. If you're on a jury panel, that's what you're a judge. In the time of Chazal, you had 23 judges, not one judge. That means you have a jury of 23. you didn't have a head judge, maybe they did have, they obviously did have the relationship thing, but how about the questions and all these things that are asked, and the two lawyers that are going on the side. No, these are the best in themselves have to work on this themselves. But the idea is, I don't want to think into this too much. The wife said this, we do this. Okay, I'm with you. The wife said we do this, I'm with you. That's not a way to do it. You have to make a decision. Or don't be a judge. But if you're a judge, then you have to know you have to make a decision, and you may have to fight with people, and you may have to try to convince them, because the mice is you're chayiv for if you go together with the Russia and so on. And a Russia doesn't necessarily mean a Russia. It means that you're listening to whatever you're listening to, and it doesn't have to be emes. The din of Hashavas Aveda. There's a lot of difficult things in that, and we don't know where we are, and with the Jewish neighbor, the Goyish neighbor, loy vacuum, not loy vacuum. And all these things, very true. Whatever the halachas are, the halachas are. I just want to add one halacha there. It says that you're mechuyev to give it back. That's the main thing, right? That we don't want you lo yuchel l'salim. Where is it? You stop. You don't want to help, and then stomach. They just talking about an animal, but then you're talking about. Guy lost, what do you call it? You're not allowed to just say, I pretend I didn't see it and I go right. I have to pick it up and I have to look at it. I know a guy who lives in the Yeshiva Shegegend area, which I'd say is Levi soil probably. And he has a room full of broken umbrellas, baby bottles, toys, things of that sort. And he doesn't know what to do with it. He's doing what the mitzvah says to do, collecting the toy, this, and then whatever happens. I want to tiny. The Ikir din of Hashavas Aveda is to make sure the Aveda gets returned. That's the main thing. The Balabos gets his stuff. Now, my picking up, let's say, I'm walking about 2 minutes behind somebody. I didn't see them drop it, so I don't know if it's them. So anyway, I'm walking behind them, and I see a baby bottle on the floor. And it's very possible it came from them, very possible it came from another Jew that lived here, but in a Jewish neighborhood. So what am I going to do? I'll pick it up, all right? Now, how do I intend to return it? Oh, I'll hang up a sign that says, found, okay? You come to our yeshiva, you'll see the found section is about 30 pages. It's very small writing. And the lost section is about 1 page with big writing. What does that mean? That means either I didn't realize I lost it, or I gave up right away. Now, why do you give up right away? Look, I lost it. My kid was drinking a bottle. I walked a block or two to my home, and I don't see the bottle. What would you normally do? I would assume, like most people, you'd walk back those 2 blocks and see if you dropped the bottle, right? But if I came behind you and I picked up the bottle, your coming back is not going to be able to find it. And I, on the other hand, am not going to be able to find you either. And I'm not going to go over to every person in the area who, first of all, we don't even know if there were guests in the area, but even to go over to every person in the area and asking, did you lose a baby bottle? Did you lose a baby bottle? You're not going to do that. and to rely on the what do you call it, the note, the sign that you put up that you found something, it's meaningless. Nobody looks at it. So therefore, there has to be a place where people will find the things or stay away from it. Don't pick it up. And they think because the eager is to return it. That's the main thing, and it may get more returned by you leaving it alone than by picking it up. That's the point. Doesn't go on such a case. I remember the Rashi here by the Tzira, an interesting Rashi. Okay. Now, Rashi gives you a reason why you only counted 3 nations here. The Chivi, the Chiti, and the Kanani. And he says because these 3 were the ones that the Tzira affected. And he says that these 2 were on this side of the Yarden, even though the Chivi was on the other side of the Yarden. It spit and it got the... Now, where would you think the Chivi were on the other side of the Yarden? Like right across the Yarden. So the Chivi can spit, that means so the Tzira can spit that far. It can spit at 20 feet, so he got him. They brought it across the Yarden. That's not where the Chivi lived. The Chivi lived a Hola. They lived where Hagrizim Hareva was. They lived in Shechem, in those cities. That's where the Chivi lived. And that's at the other side of Eretz Yisrael from the Yarden. So the case is the Tzira is pretty far for the Tzira to go. Tzira can do it, but that's not much from Rashi. That's what I'm saying. So what I want to say that these 3 nations, we're not talking about they live near, they live far, and that's why the Tzira. The problem, what the Parshas made the Tzira is when they invaded. We'll take a look in Parshas in Shoftim. You'll see that it's in the second parak, I think it is. It talks about that certain areas, the Rebbeinu Shalom made it that they weren't able to conquer them. And they were the Chiti, the Chivi, and the Kanani. And those areas, from belonging to those nations. Why? Because he didn't want us to come in and have a lot of empty land. And because of empty land, you'll have Til Balecha Chayas Hasodit. And if we'll do Averas, the animals ain't going to leave, right? Well, once the animals left, the Beish is not bringing them back just because we did Averas. He'll kill us some other way, but not bring back the animals. So therefore, it won't happen. So therefore, the Tzira, so we're talking about these 3, and the Beish made it, as they say for the sea. Now, Kozman, I don't need the land. The land is the Yidden don't need it, so why are you going to empty it? So keep it occupied, keep people living there. We also keeps us in line because if we do the wrong thing, these nations will attack us and so on, and Chas v'Chilila may even kill us. So therefore, we have to be careful for these nations. It's important. So the Rebbeinu says these 3 nations, not the cities that they didn't conquer because they didn't conquer that, they've got an einish for. But these 3 countries the Rebbeinu made, or whatever it is, areas the Rebbeinu made that they couldn't conquer. Why? Because he wanted to have the Goyim there as that they're able to oppress us in times that we don't do the right thing. And therefore he wanted them there. And secondly, we don't need the land, so he doesn't want to empty out the land, and we're not able to defend it from building up the areas, so therefore animals will come back, and if animals come back, as we've seen in the beginning of COVID, that the animals were walking down, lions were walking down the streets, because people were afraid to walk outside. So no gone the people, so then the animals come in. And that's the part that we don't want. We don't want animals to be there. So therefore, but what we see is that interesting that even though Rashi is quoting a Gemara and so on, and it seems to say what he says it says, if you look up the Gemara, it doesn't actually say that what they said. It says more, I think, like what I just said. And therefore, we're talking about why these three nations different the others, and by Kasha, that the Yechivi were far away, they weren't near, and therefore, okay. Yeah. Okay, then he goes and he finishes off, like I said before. These are the halachas he told him at that time. And then he said to him, now we're going to get the Yidden's response to these halachas. So he goes down and he tells the people, and they said, Kol Echad again, 600,000 different things. Kol Advorim Asher Dibra Hashem Nasa, whatever all these things he said, we're going to do. That's because we agreed to it. So immediately, Vayichtav Moshe's Kedivra Hashem Vayashma Boike Bel Mizbeach, and then he sent the Nari Bnei Yisrael L'Ya'lu Elois V'Yizbechu Zvochim Shalom Hashem Porim. Then he took the Chatzi Adam, put them in things, and he spritzed it on the people because they were chaitim, because they said this lashon. It wasn't what we wanted. Then it says that he reads him over the whole Sefer HaBris, and on that he said, Kol Asadira Hashem Nasir and Ishma, and that's the final Kabbalah Satera that we have. Okay. Now, the Tzilei B'nai Yisrael went up, and whatever pshat is, Vayechsu es Elokim, Vayechlu Vayishtu, either it's pshat that they saw the Shechina and they were eating kipshutai, and therefore what it means is that you didn't have the proper hakoret that the Rebbeinu Shalom is there. That you do what you need, physical needs, or pshat is like like they saw God and they meaning they got a filling. They were filled with the awe of seeing the Shechina, and they didn't turn away from it. And that's the time that you weren't. You treated it like a friend, and that's according to one side in the Pshat and Taveira, that those are the K'tzinei Ha'am that the Rebbeinu Shem got. We see an interesting thing, how big Chur was. How old he was, I don't know, but he's a grandfather at this time, but he's about 25 years old. B'Tzalel, who is his grandson, is going to build a Mishkan when he's 13 years old. That's after they kill Chur by the Egel. But he says that anybody has a problem should go to Aaron and Chur. I'm leaving you two guys to run the country. Well, I'm gone. It's Aaron and Chur. So he must have been a very big man, and they kill him. Okay, got the Egel. We'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, and and it says he was 40 days and 40 nights in what he called. Now, the Chedish, I think, is here. It says, when he says, Reuven, 40, I didn't eat and I didn't drink. In the Haftarah of Parshas Pinchas, we have the same thing about Eliyahu. He tells him to eat And he said, you didn't eat food, it's going to be for 40 days and 40 nights. So they say the difference between Moshe and Eliyahu is Moshe became a malach. He didn't need food for 40 days and 40 nights. That's why he didn't eat. He was a malach. On the other hand, Eliyahu needed food, but the food that he ate lasted for 40 days and 40 nights. So it's two completely different inyanim. Anyway, have a good Shabbos, and everything should be good. And I hope the weather does not become like they say, but I can't answer you on that. Sei gesund. Ja.